Hey, everybody, it's Mike with Riding in the Ozarks, and we've got my co host Bagger Bader here. I think Firecracker may be joining us in a little bit. She's in the other room drinking wine with her bitches. And we got my buddy Nick from Renegade Harley Davidson here. If I wanted an expert that knows about these new bikes and stuff, Nick's the guy to ask questions. He is the general manager at Renegade Harley Davidson, who I've been working with for, well, I'm pretty close to a year now, Nick.
Yep.
And so we were there at Renegade when he rolled out his new 2025 models that he had in stock. And we did a live from there for those of you that did not get to catch it. It was pretty cool. We had a good time, had a good turnout and stuff. So, but I've had a lot of people ask questions about the 2025s. Some things I didn't pick up on that night. Some things I'm not quite sure. It's not maybe spelled out at the detail level that some people are asking in the press release and stuff. So we may get some questions tonight. Some people may have some comments. Some of it you may be able to speak of. I'm going to warn you, everybody, that Nick is not going to tell you why they canceled the Road King or when they're bringing it back or when it's getting the 117 or anything else. He cannot talk about future products. You can ask, but he's going to have to decline to comment. Because everybody wants to know that, and I know you're forbidden by Harley Davidson, and I know they will be checking in on my videos and stuff, and we wouldn't want anybody to get in trouble. So, Nick, I think I know the answer to this question, but we had it in the chat earlier. Sean says Dyna or Softail, and why?
Ooh,
That's tough for you because I know you got both.
I do have both, and I bought one first. So I was a Sportster guy and absolutely love the Sportster lineup. Always have. I think they're super fun, but they're just a teeny touch too small for a guy my size. Although I did have 73,000 miles on it when I finally traded it in. And so I bought a Dyna first, and mostly because it's a big Sportster. And, there's just so much cool aftermarket stuff available for the Dyna line. And, with all the club style builds that were very popular a few years back, that was just super fun, and I had to have one. So I bought that first, and then I bought a Softail, and I figured out maybe I should have bought the Softail first. The Softail is way more comfortable.
We've got that 2000 FXDX, and when we got it for Firecracker, somebody put slam shocks on it, which made it easy for her to reach the ground, and she complained about how it rode and stuff, but it wasn't my bike. I didn't have to ride it, so I didn't really worry about it until I bought it from her. Yeah. And then I measured the shocks, and they were like 12 inches. And so I found a set of OEM FXDX adjustable rear shocks on Marketplace with like 10,000 miles on them, and I put them on there, and it's a world of difference.
Yeah. So I've got a Dyna convertible. It's a 95 model, so Evo power. Still has the convertible bags with it, the windshield. I mean, it is as original as they come. The only thing it had was a set of Screaming Eagle mufflers on it. And super comfortable bike. I mean, you can tour on it, you can have fun with it. But then I added a 99 Softail Fat Boy to the list, and also Evo powered, so similar motor, and just, with the floorboards, and it's got a set of apes on it, so it just fits me a little better. But they're both super fun bikes. You can't go wrong with either.
So here's a question you may or not be able to answer. Live, Love, Ride to Eat wants to know what are dealership penalties for disclosures. So, I mean, you may not be able to say exactly, but you might be able to give some examples of fines dealers have received or something.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate. I've not been hit by one yet. And I say yet, although I hope to keep it that way. And, the dealership fines are pretty dang stiff. They can be monetary, measured in the thousands. It's not just a couple $100 slap on the wrist. And if they are, if they're bad enough, you can get put into they can change your standing with the motor company to where you're not in good standing. That makes it to where you're unable to get CVOs. You're unable to have your inventory timely sometimes. And the worst case scenario, especially for a dealer group like the Teddy Morse group that I'm in, you can not be able to add more stores. They can say, hey, that's really cool that you want to buy that store, and it's awesome you're qualified, but you can't have it. You're not abiding by the scenario that we expect out of you. So it's a pretty stiff deal if you go out and share things you're not supposed to.
So this is my buddy JS here, and he's mad and he's leaving. Not yeah, because we're not going to tell him when he's going to Road King with the 117. He's on the Road King now. I did tag him in that post when you said you were bringing back 2 police editions,
Yeah.
just in case they weren't spoken for.
Yeah, they are not spoken for yet. I've still got them here ready to go. So,
JS, just call him up and tell him you want the Riding in the Ozarks deal.
amen to that.
So, 260 Jake has a question. This is something a lot of people are going to be asking about that is specific to the 2025. Saw the full-size lowrider ST bags listed in the P&A catalog. My dealer says it's for 25 plus lowrider S and ST. Does this mean the new full-size right bag won't fit or won't be an option to buy for my 23 ST?
That's a good question. Because I hadn't seen it in the P&A catalog yet, but I had heard rumor it was going to end up in there. So give me about 5 minutes. I'll look it up while we're chatting here and see if I can find an answer. I don't know that one off the top of my head yet.
Well, and I think like all things, it may depend on your exhaust. You may have to change. You may have to get another part. But I mean, I'm assuming the frames have not changed. So
Yeah,
if the frames have not changed, there's going to be a way.
yeah, there's no structural change to the motorcycle for 25. So I would think it's doable. The old IT answer for people to pick on an IT guy, anything's possible, time and money. The question, will it bolt right on? And that'll be the true question. So
Yeah, and I think this is JS had responded, and 260 Jake commented that it may be listed that way because of the 2-into-1 exhaust. They don't want you to think that if you have the 2-into-2 exhaust, you can just buy it and it's going to be a fit.
yeah,
So I'm sure somebody's going to do it. And here's a point, and I don't know. We'll have to find out what it takes to just get one bag. I'm sure it can be done if somebody has an insurance claim. That was the discussion we had when this was leaked. I said, people are like, are they going to sell just one bag? I said, they have to. They have to have a way to sell one bag, even if it's primered for insurance repair purposes.
yeah.
So there's got to be a way. So I may have to have an insurance claim, or something like that. But, I wonder how much it'll cost to just have one bag painted purple.
Yeah.
Because the Sport Glide is already a 2-into-1 from the factory.
Yeah.
So why was the price raised $2,000 for the same bike? What also makes dealers get bikes? One dealer gets bikes for another. I'm going to take the price question, my take on it first, and you guys all chime in, Steve, whatever, and tell me what you think on there. But this is kind of like the theory that, I have people in the comments say this all the time. Nothing changed on the bike. Why should they raise the price? When was the last time a gallon of milk changed? Since I've been a kid, it's been a white gallon of milk, but, and if there's something on the inside that's changed, I don't really care. It tastes the same, looks the same, but I ain't paying the same amount as I was 25 years ago. And inflation has something to do with that. Now, I said early on when I said it was time to buy a 2024 that they had actually reduced the price for like the 2024 Street Glides and Road Glides compared to what I thought a special was in a 23 model. So I thought they had dropped the price and given you more for your money. And so I think raising the Street Glide was also, and Road Glide this year was a bit of a price correction. I think maybe having a cheaper price helped early adopters get on this new platform and stuff. So that's my theory on why the $2,000 increase. Inflation, and there was probably a little bit discounted, last year.
Yeah, spending most of my life in marketing and sales, it doesn't matter what business you're in, you're always going to have a profit margin. There's a number. There's typically a percentage of profit that you're looking at that you're saying, hey, if we can attain this goal, we can do okay and still come in at a price point that the consumer can feel happy about. So my guess is that some materials, some labor, whatever it is, occurred for Harley Davidson over the last 12 months, and they had to raise prices to get to that price point or profit point.
Yeah, and I'd love to give an official answer on that. Unfortunately, it's just not information that at the dealer level, we don't have control. We buy them from Harley Davidson from how much they tell us we get to buy them for. We don't even get to negotiate. So, and then the second piece of it, an opinion-based statement from me, when we saw the 2024 Street Glide and Road Glide product price point lower, at first that was really exciting. And from a dealer perspective, at least from my end of it, that was like, holy cow, we're going to sell a shitload of these motorcycles.
Right.
We already sell a good fair number of them out of our dealership here. But the idea of seeing a massive price correction was, super exciting. And then I slept for a night and I started to think through that. Okay, what else is going to happen? The old elementary school adage, for every action, there's a reaction. We go all the way back to Newton. He figured that out. And immediately, as soon as that information went public, the first thing that happened was we watched used bike values tumble. Used Harley Davidson values went down dramatically. I was equally subject to that. I own a 2022 Street Glide ST that I bought brand new, and I was considering trading for a new 24, and I could have traded my bike in the fall of 23 in the mid 20s range. January of 2024, that bike was worth 18 grand, just like one day to the next. As soon as the release came out, bam, it dropped in value. And so very quickly, two things happened. One, everybody that had a trade in and bought it during COVID, now all of a sudden is having a hard time getting out of it. And so we didn't sell the numbers we were kind of hoping for. And then the second part was, loan values dropped. And so dealer inventory was dramatically impacted because, the average person owns one or two Harley Davidsons, but the average dealership owns a couple hundred. And to watch them all tumble in value and go, holy shit, we bought them for this during the end of the riding season, getting ready for spring. And now I can only sell them for what they're worth. And even if somebody wants to accessorize it, I can't get a loan for them big enough. So I think, again, opinion-based statement, I think Harley is looking at that going, okay, maybe we went too far. And then I think as well, supply and demand, manufacturing cost, profit margin, there's, all that business stuff weighs into it too. But I think that's part of it. I think, whether or not they met their goal, I don't know. But I believe anyway, the intent was they lower the price and sell a boatload of them. And if they didn't get that number, they're going to chase that number one way or the other. Stockholders, unfortunately, will demand it. So, and then the second part of that question, what makes a dealer get bikes before another? Some of it's voodoo magic. About the time I think I've got it figured out, they all of a sudden change the rules, change the plan, or just, life happens. But some of it depends on inventory and, again, kind of that supply and demand side of it. How many bikes is that dealer selling and what do they have in inventory? And the motor company looks at our inventory. They can see our daily sales and see what we're moving out of here. And they can go, whoa, that guy needs more X, whatever that widget might be. And so sometimes they can divert, some production toward us, and we can earn the ability to sell some more bikes and have some more bikes. And then other times, you can think, man, if only I had one more Sportster, I could get that price conscious customer taken care of, and I just can't get it. And, and you can beg for it, borrow for it, plead for it. And especially during COVID, you'd watch the other dealers around you get deliveries and you're like, man, when's mine coming? And you may have it on order and just not get it. But a lot of it really comes down to dealership status. There's it's like anything else. If you scratch their back and you take care of them and you perform well, hopefully they return the favor. I've experienced a bit of that, but I've also had days where I was like, God, if only I could get that new model a little quicker, and so, some of it's just the way the ball bounces.
So, Snake Skinner wants to know, what is your favorite for 25?
Ooh.
From each of us.
Nice.
Who wants to go first?
Well, I love talking about bikes, so I'll snag that one in a hurry because I'm sure my wife's watching. My mom might even be watching, so if she is, hi, Mom. And the favorite. So my wife would love it if I bought a purple Street Glide of any variety. Now she really wants a purple CVO because I built a custom one for the dealership a year and a half ago and had it custom painted. And she was like, we need that in our garage. And I never heard the end of it. My entire hog chapter knows that my wife wanted it and knows that I didn't buy it for and I've never heard the end of it. I get love notes, post-it notes, sticky notes, all sorts of stuff, always reminding me that I did not purchase the purple CBO that she deserved and should have had. So my vote's for purple. I could go for the the Mystic Shift. I think that's pretty cool with their new custom colors on a Street Glide. But the Poisonberry color on the new Street Glide CBO, if I had unlimited funds, that's the top of the list. So that would be badass.
Now that you gave us your wife's response about that you need that in your garage, I don't even want a Harley anymore. I want your wife.
I am so blessed. This year we will have been married in May 20 years, and we started dating in high school. And holy cow, like I couldn't have gotten it any better. I absolutely outkicked my coverage, as they say.
I have a friend that likes to say I'm punching way above my weight class.
Yep, that's a good one.
So, Steve, I'll let you go next.
Well, Nick stole my thunder, but we kind of chit-chatted about this before we started the live. The Poisonberry CBO Road Glide ST has had mixed reviews out on the interwebs.
Now hold it. You mean the one with the graphics, not the Poison?
Yeah, excuse me. Yes. Okay. With the red, gray, and black.
Yeah.
Some people don't like it. I just think it's a home run. I think it's badass. It's got a 3D dimensional look to it. I think it's real new age, kind of a progressive style of paint job. Makes it look like it's moving while it's sitting still. I just think they hit a home run with that bike.
All right. So going with Nick's theory that unlimited funds, and I just get to pick one. I don't actually have to afford it. I'm not a Road Glide guy, but I would probably go with the CBO Road Glide ST, probably in the red. The red and black is not my thing. Not that I have anything against it, it's not my thing. So I'd probably go with the solid red. I wouldn't do primer. Sorry, Harley, I know, but that's just how I feel about it. But and the reason I would choose the CBO Road Glide ST is because I rode that thing on the track, and the track mode and some of the other things, and just riding that bike on the track, it was maybe a once in a lifetime experience, and it's something I won't forget. And having a bike like that in the garage, I could go out and try and recreate that memory on a back road, 2-lane highway somewhere, and have a lot of fun with it. So if they come out with the Street Glide ST, though, it's game on. A CVO Street Glide ST with track modes and stuff. It's going to be. I'm going to start an OnlyFans. I'm going to sell a kidney. Whatever I got to do.
Love for sale.
I'll take pictures of my wife's feet while she's asleep and post them on OnlyFans or whatever.
Oh, hey, Nick, the other thing that I want to commend Harley on this year is when I look through all the different bikes and the color variations, I don't see a red that I don't like. I think they just killed the shades of red for this year's models.
Having seen all the color chips at an event with Harley before the release, I feel this is their best color year they've done yet. Harley paint quality is exceptional and second to none, but sometimes their color choices look far better online than they look when I get them in the showroom, and I'm like, oh dear God, I've got to sell this. But this year in person, they killed it. So.
Yeah, I mean, at least we didn't get ketchup this year. So next question. I'm sure we're getting way behind, so everybody's just going to have to bear with us. But so this is a technical question. The suspension's changed for Lowrider ST, and I believe the suspension has changed for all of the models, all the Softail models.
Yeah.
So for everybody that's tuned in, besides the change of the rear shock from progressive to straight, what are the other changes? My understanding is it's retuned throughout the bike, and I thought they went from progressive to straight spring rates, and the way I read it was front and rear, not just the rear. Do you happen to know, Nick?
I believe that to be correct. I was going to try and study up on the suspension module today, and I didn't get that accomplished, but I do know that they are different front and rear on all Softails with the intent to produce more suspension travel. And having ridden one back to back with a 24, you can feel it. Throw a leg over them and literally just around the parking lot through a pothole, you notice it instantly. So it's a dramatic change.
Yeah, and the other change, and I know not maybe all models had the external adjuster on them, but now they all have, I believe, an adjuster under the seat
Yeah.
for preload.
Yep.
So, what's your thoughts on colors? I really dig the purple abyss. I think we kind of touched on the colors a little bit. I will say, seeing your street bob in purple denim, what I did, I liked it a little better than I thought I would. I mean, I'm not a big denim paint guy, and so it was better than I expected.
Yeah.
And yes, there's a comment here, and maybe you could touch on this real quick, Nick. But Road King is not discontinued. The police model is still available. I was told at one time that technically, for like you guys to order a police model, it's supposed to be for a department, and that you can't sell them to the public unless they decide to not pick them up or something changes and stuff. But you're supposed to be like ordering for a department, not an individual.
Technically, yes. For dealers that support the police program and move some bikes through it, there are options to bring them in as a demo for police departments and municipalities to be able to try them, ride them, use them. And then after a waiting period, we are able to sell them to the general public. But in order to get the demo, the dealer's got to be pretty active in the police side of things. The only other option is to pick up essentially leftover production models that may have been painted for specific municipalities, like to the detail of like Houston or Miami-Dade or things like that, because there's a ton of different police paint schemes. And at the end of the year, if there are unconsumed new models, then like what our dealership here does is we get on a list to try and get some of those, and then we're able to sell them directly to the public immediately.
So Brian asked a question here. Do you have a chart to compare 24 to 25 side by side changes? Jay kind of followed that up with you for which bike for clarity. And Brian said for touring and softail. So I think he's really wanting to know, is there any graphic or anything that Harley puts out or anything that says, here's what this bike had in 2024, here's what it has in 2025, what's changed? And I know I personally haven't seen anything like that in one place.
I don't think Harley has any of that they put out for the public. A lot of, when you think back to Harley's branding and their overall business model, they're very experiential. The intent is to be, like what we're doing tonight, sitting bullshitting, having some fun, and talking to somebody that hopefully knows at least something. I surely won't claim to know it all. And and so they do a lot to train the dealers and the dealer staff to be able to answer those questions and to be able to demonstrate the two and put them side by side. But they don't give us a lot of tools to where it's like, here's the info, go read about it, and there's your answer. That's pretty dry compared to the Harley Davidson business model.
So and to kind of touch on that, for example, and you may be able to answer this for something I had in a question. When I looked at the Street Bob that night, and I didn't really look super close. We had a lot going on, but I assumed it was kind of the satin finish on there because they weren't the bright chrome. But somebody else thought it was raw. So I don't know if you can say which one it is, but it's that kind of thing. In the press release, it doesn't really say. It says bright finishes, and that's what term they use. They don't say chrome. They didn't say satin. They didn't specify. So I really couldn't answer that 100%.
Yeah, from what it appears to me, it appears like a raw aluminum finish. It looks very much like the same finish that we had on the Softail Standard. So,
yeah, they did that Fat Boy a few years ago in what they called the satin finish, and I didn't. That's kind of what it reminded me of, and that's what I said it was in a video, but that made it be inaccurate.
Yeah.
I know 114 versus 117 on Softail, but there are some things we don't see. For example, Skyline update to allow over-the-air updates. And I actually have recorded something about that, Brian, that'll be coming out. That I reached out to Harley right away to find out if that was going to be a thing that would come to the 24s, and they did release a software update this week. And me and Nick have already talked about it a little bit. You may be able to do those updates yourself. I am not going to recommend it. There's documentation on Harley's site about the process for technicians and stuff that people are doing these themselves, but I'm not going to be responsible for you bricking your bike. There's also stuff going around saying that it's covered under warranty on Facebook and all that stuff. I have not seen that from Harley Davidson. They did not tell me that. What I would suggest is if you have bought a bike from a dealer, call them and say, hey, if I drop this off, can you update it? And are you going to charge me, or is it covered under warranty? And see what they say. I mean, this process me and Nick was talking about, Harley says it's going to take up to 45 minutes. You got to have your bike plugged in with the tender, so because they leave it on while they're going through this whole process and stuff. And sure, you may technically be able to do it yourself, but if you screw it up, it's definitely going to be probably a chargeable thing for somebody to have to fix it. Anything to add to that, Nick?
No, the only, without sounding like a commercial and going into a plug, I would tell you, especially when you're buying your motorcycle, like those are, the last thing you want to do is go in and think about the worst possible scenario that can happen after you own a massive toy like a Harley Davidson. But I would definitely try to get a feel for the dealership you're buying it from and find out, is it a dealer that's going to answer your phone? Is it a dealer that's going to help you out, that's going to work with you? Are they going to say, all right, hey, we're going to take care of you and we want you as a customer and you're important? Or are they going to railroad you through and say, man, we are the low price leader and there you go. You got yourself a great bike and awesome. Take that thing home 6 states across and see you in 5 years. That goes a long way. And, what Harley does on their warranty claim process and how they handle payment for some of that stuff. Some stuff they pay and some stuff they don't, but a good quality dealer that actually gives a shit and answers his phone and wants to be around and take care of his customers, he'll find solutions for that. But every once in a while you get that guy that comes in yelling and screaming. That guy don't get anything extra. So, that's the best advice I can give anybody, is just find a dealer that's local to you that'll take care of you and work with you on stuff. And, a lot of times it'll work itself out in the end.
Now, going back to this also, and you may or may not know yet, Nick, I didn't realize it the night of the launch. So I recorded some first look videos, and by the time I got home and looked at the press release the next morning, I'm like, oh, I gotta share some of this stuff, because you couldn't tell by looking, or at least I couldn't. I'm not a tech that works on these things day in, day out. The tech might recognize it, but so they have the heads from the touring models, it looks like, but they, instead of running liquid cooling through the head passages, they're running oil through them. But they are running oil through the heads now to reduce heat, especially at low speed and hot weather conditions. It's going to be more noticeable and stuff. So that is a change that is one of those things that you may not see, but is an impact to all of the Softail models. All LED lighting, you may or may not notice that. I mean, it's been a mix for different bikes at different levels for the last few years as they've been working toward this, but now it's across the board, all LED lighting, period.
Yeah, the LED lighting is huge. Dear God, thank you for that. if Harley's watching and hears it, thank you.
Home run right there.
That's one less thing I have to hear Honda and Indian guys grumble about and be like, look, it's still got an incandescent bulb like 1912.
But, you know what I say? I say, yeah, and it's had self-canceling turns for 25 plus years.
Yep.
Because half of the new Hondas and stuff still don't have that. I had a guy complaining in the comment that they need to go like the metric, where the blinkers are all on one side and the cancel button. And I'm like, if I have to buy a bike that has a cancel button for the turn signal, I'm buying a used bike. If they take away self-canceling turns and I have to have a cancel button, then we have a problem, because I'm never going back to that. I ride with a friend. He upgraded. I say upgraded. He bought a Harley this last year. He says I paid $10,000 extra for a stereo and cruise control. And I say, and self-canceling turns, because he's the guy we had to constantly tell him, hey, your turn signal's still on. Going 10, 15 miles after we made the turn, somebody's got to pull up and remind him.
That might be the most embarrassing thing that can happen on a motorcycle.
Or riding with the saddlebag lid open. I've done that a couple of once.
So specifically 25 paint compared to 24 for the CVO. I think overall it's a plus, in my opinion. I think the 25 colors are better. I think specifically for the CVOs, they're better. I mean, I like the white on the Road Glide ST. We don't have a white anywhere this year. It's kind of more bright or dark tones, but I think they did a good job. I think it's an improvement.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree on that. I mean,
Oh,
you know,
hey,
oh,
look who's in the chat there, Nick. She's going to wear you down.
yeah,
We're a little delayed because I didn't want to skip anybody's questions.
hey,
She
that's
said
all
20
right.
years.
Yep, 20 long
Yep.
years. People always ask us, they're like, man, what was the secret? How'd you make it 20 years? And she said, well, he traveled for work for 10 of them. So I didn't have
Yeah.
Um,
to.
talking about increased price, cut production. Let's go back to 1975 when a dealer had six and said, "Take it or leave it." Bikes on the floor.
Yeah.
I have this conversation. My dad owned a Panhead before I was born. Okay, my uncle never owned a Harley, but he rode Hondas. He wasn't going to spend the money for a Harley. But I've had this conversation with both of them, and I think it was people have this conception that Harley was for the blue collar guy, that the blue collar guy could afford it. It was his bike, and now it's not. And I think that really stems from marketing. I mean, no, I don't know anybody that ever said, "Oh yeah, I got a deal on a Harley back in 1980." They said, "Oh, I had to wait a year to get a bike," or I had to buy a used bike. You couldn't buy a new bike unless you were rich, or because there was a waiting list or whatever the situation. But neither of those two folks in my family that are riders that I've learned riding from and growing up with them riding have ever said Harleys were more affordable back in the day. I think the marketing was to give you that impression that it was for the everyday guy. But I know I looked at the pricing from a perspective of I paid $21,000 out the door for a 2016 Street Glide in the beginning of at the end of 2015, before 2016. So they'd only been out for a few months. If you put inflation on that bike, it would be $27,700, I think, as I recall, which is right there close to where we're at now for arguably a much better bike. I mean, feature wise, functionality, all those things, and that's what I keep trying to, like with the milk analogy. Prices are going to go up. That's the world we're living in. Everybody says it costs as much as a truck, and I said, well, you haven't bought a truck in the last 10 years.
And I got one for you. I know that I've bought 4 Harley Davidsons, and obviously, before I bought them, the financing, the money part of it was a concern, making sure I could get everything in all my ducks in a row. But once I put my ass in that seat and I took off on it, I've never cared one iota about what I paid for it.
Yeah.
So most of the people that care about what they paid for it after they bought it are people who probably bought it and couldn't afford it, and then they're struggling to make their payments or to afford the service or other things else, and that's where they get into a problem. Is they've overextended themselves, and that's not Harley Davidson to blame. No matter what, nobody
Right.
made you sign the paper. So hello to Brazil tonight that tuned in. So MB has a question. I'm kind of curious about this too, Nick. When are you going to get a Pan America ST in for riding in the Ozarks to do a first ride video on?
As of right now, it looks like I will see one probably mid to late spring is about what it looks like right now.
Are they coming kind of later than other bikes and stuff?
I'm not sure really. So the RevMax platform for us, we've got a few that'll ship early in the year. But for that particular model, and some of it has to do with the new model launch as well within Harley. So, none of the dealer staff knows what we're getting until they do the annual release every year. But we do have an option to, for the GMs and for owners, they get to find out a little bit ahead of time, but we can't share it even with the dealer staff, what we know. And so we don't even really get to pick and choose what models we get or what colors when we're getting new stuff. And then basically that stuff gets introduced into the network as it becomes available. So I'll be curious to see if that's all dealers or that might just be us or whatnot. Again, kind of voodoo magic of timing. I don't know if we're head of the line, middle of the line, or end of the line as to when they'll release, but we'll see our late spring.
I if I have any pull at all, I'll pull on whatever strings I can in February to see if we could say, I could do a review on that bike if only my dealer had one sooner.
That'd be
see
awesome.
what we could do.
we've got a bunch of people wanting to see it, and we don't have a deposit on it yet, but I think we will here very shortly because there's a couple guys really wild about it. So,
well, and we are, so for those who tuned in who haven't, are new to the channel or haven't heard, I will be at the press event at late February, and I can say that I don't think I will be riding a Pan America ST there. So, that doesn't look like that's on the agenda. And so I'm really interested to see one. I have not seen anybody post anything about it on social media or YouTube except for Chase on Two Wheels, who got to an early taste of it because they went to like a behind the scenes filming of the promo video. And so they got to test it a little bit there and stuff. And obviously, I'm not Chase on Two Wheels with 1 million subscribers, so I get why it wasn't me, guys. But I'd still love to do a first ride on it. I rode the Pan America just days after it came out. There was a dealer that didn't sell bikes but sold apparel, but they got a demo truck there before anybody else, and I went up and rode it, and I hit 100 mile an hour coming off the on ramp. Before we got to the bottom, I just did a little bit of sandbagging coming onto the interstate and let him get a little bit ahead of me, and I was like, wow, this is a game changer. If you haven't rode the Pan America ST, I know, Nick, you're a fan. You own one.
I am.
I like them. It's just not when I have to choose between one or the other, it's not quite at the top of the list.
Yeah, and that was the same for me. It was a bike that, when it came down to it, I always chose something else over it until finally I was like, okay, I can't think of anything else to choose at this moment. We're going to bring one of these home and put it in the garage with the others because I'm that guy. And and so I added it to the fleet, as we'll say, and it is the bike I ride more than anything else. And it's for a couple different reasons. One, I think it's very comfortable. Two, it's extremely fun. I was a metric bike rider for a lot of years because I wanted something that was a little faster and a little more nimble and than the typical traditional big heavy Harley. And this kind of harkens back to that, but yet, I can go on a cross country trip on it super easy and very comfortably. And then the last piece of it, I don't give a shit about it. Like it is not a bike I go home and polish. It's not a bike I go home and wash. In fact, I try to run it through mud holes just because it looks cooler when it's dirty. So I ride it to work. It sits out here in the sun all day. It gets hailed on, it gets snowed on, whatever. Who cares? It's just fun to ride. So,
right on. So, so I know the ST has 17-inch wheels, which was something I predicted. Looked like a different front fender, a different seat. At launch, right after at launch, not that night, we were looking at it. I don't know if you went back and got to watch the whole stream and stuff, but we had people asking about the seat height, and there was some stuff missing on the website at the time about the seat height. But it does look like they have lowered the seat height just slightly, but not a lot there and stuff. Anything else noticeable about the ST that really is different than what it is for the shorter windshield? Anything else I'm missing on the ST that's kind of separates it from the Pan America?
Some of the other stuff that's a little different on it, it's some smaller stuff, but there's no bread box in the exhaust. So the Pan America Special has a secondary chamber right behind the catalytic converter and up under the swing arm there. And the ST model doesn't have that. It's just straight back into the muffler and out you go. So I expect it to sound a little different because a lot of the aftermarket exhaust eliminates that bread box as well. So curious to hear one.
Do you know, is that like to make it a little bit quicker?
I think it's a weight reduction effort. And the other piece of it is that two-chamber muffler design is what makes that bike eligible for like out in federal like forestry lands and stuff. It doesn't have a spark arrestor, but with the multiple chambers, it's okay to ride. And so I think they put this together assuming that no one's going to use it that way.
Are they assuming that somebody's going to stop for a U.S. Forest Service agent when they're on a Pan America?
Well, so I bring that up because for anybody that doesn't know, I started in the Harley business in 2021. And my first day on the job, I had a very notable customer who's a great friend of mine today. But he and I met on my day number one, and I started in May of 21. So the Pan America had launched 3 days prior. It was on our showroom floor. And that afternoon, I was watching the sea of people coming in, and I wanted to just help. And so I convinced my sales manager at the time, hey, I just want to go out and just see if I can, see if I can just help people answer questions, direct traffic, whatever. So long story short, I get this customer who asks me, after he asked me so many other questions that I was able to answer. I had studied, I had done everything I could before I started the job. But he asked me, does this bike have a spark arrestor on it? And I'm like, oh shit, I don't know. and he looked at me and he goes, well, what are you doing on the showroom floor? Who hired you? And I'm like, and I literally felt this tall. I was like, okay. It took me 4 months and I got that customer the answer to his question. And then I tracked him down when he was in the store in September that same year. I said, hey, I don't know if you remember me. And he goes, yeah, I remember you. You didn't know anything. I'm like, you're right. I'm that guy. But here's how they do it. And he's like, oh, okay. I don't really care. I just want to see if you knew.
Well, look who has joined the party. So Nick's been answering questions from the crowd and stuff. Oh, you've gone through 2/3 of the bottle already?
More than that.
She's on a little liquid curry.
You did have a little help.
Just one little glass.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
the question was asked, and I know you want to answer this. If you could go into Renegade Harley Davidson and pick out any 2025 Harley Davidson model that's on the website and order it, cost aside, which one would you pick? What
I don't know until I don't know until I get to see these new colors in person. That's my problem.
So I guess you're gonna get to see purple denim Saturday. You still have it, don't you, Nick?
Yep.
Okay. So she'll get to see that one. She'll get to see the two-tone Fat Boy. Is it still there?
Yes, that one's still here, and we still have a Mystic Shift that she can see if that's purple.
I want to. And the boysenberry, I said, I feel like I've seen pictures that it looks kind of more leaning towards pink, but then I've seen more purple. So I'm anxious to see that one too. But
yeah.
But none of them's in the Lowrider ST, so I'm very disappointed in that. So look out, Mike. You may have to buy me a street glide or something now.
Oh.
Darn it.
Or Mike, here's an idea. We can buy a Lowrider S for her. Or you can, not we. But we can build it the way she wants it. We'll put the cool stuff on it. We'll make it all match, and it'll be one of a kind. It'll be one unlike anybody else's.
Just like Firecracker.
She's already got a one of a kind sport glide. So would you what model, if you could get whatever model and color combination you want, which one would you have wanted Harley to make out of the colors they did this year?
What model I would want?
Yeah, not based on the colors, but if you could pick a model and then pick a color, even if they don't have it, but it has to be a color they came out with this year. What model would be your favorite model, and what's your favorite color?
What I've been wanting is a Lowrider ST, but now I'm leaning towards, do I want to move up to a street glide? So luckily, you've got your old street glide that I'm gonna one of these days take out and test it out and see.
Okay, so I guess you're gonna
That's
have to
my
write
honest answer.
When you having demo days, Nick?
We have the demo truck here on the first weekend in June, the same time we are hosting the Mid America Regional Harley Owners Group rally. So
well, we'll be in town.
Nice, yeah, it's going to be a big deal. So we're expecting at least 1,200 riders from across about 10 to 12 states. So should be a lot of fun.
Oh, we had that on our calendar.
Yes, we will. We are planning on being there. Let's see what other comments we've got here. So I think the people missed that besides paint or increase in engine power, HD always does internal changes or improvements that are not visible to the customer. And I think there's a lot of that. And I think this year with the launch, they kind of depended on dealers and the website. They depend on customers to look for themselves and kind of, I think, doubled down on content creators getting this information out. Their promo videos didn't really talk about the changes to the bikes. They just showcased them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Harley, for whatever reason, doesn't always take credit for a lot of the advancements that they put into these things every year. So, they rely on us to kind of find some of it. So,
we went to the press event last year, and that was just a week or two after the launch. It was pretty fast after the launch because we were there. Well, we were there a year ago today, so and the launch was about the same time. So like a week later, we were at the press launch, and we stopped at a photo op opportunity to take pictures of the bikes and stuff. And I was the first one to notice that they had TPMS, and we had already done the presentation where they told us about the changes, and they hadn't mentioned that, and they were surprised that it mattered to us, and we were all going, hey, look, TPM. Once I found it, everybody was talking about it, and then everybody's looking at them going, why didn't you tell us? And they're going, we didn't think it was a big deal, we didn't think it was worth mentioning. And so I think there's some of that still, that they focus on certain things, and maybe they don't realize that some of these little things that people are more in tune to than they realize.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of comments because I've made sure everybody knows that we've got TPMS on the Softails now. I think that's a big improvement. Ride mode, safety enhancements. I think a lot of the things that they're doing are, improvements. Things that maybe I won't say are huge noticeable changes, but they're moving the needle.
Yeah, I would agree.
In the right direction for sure.
So, Two Wheel Boomer said the 24, and he meant 25, touring models are identical. No. And I think the Road Glide, the Street Glide, the Road King Specials are all pretty identical to last year, and they were all carryover models.
Yeah, they're all pretty dang close. I mean, there's some really minute differences. I mean, we're coming down to like details of like the finishes on the switch housings, going from gloss to a satin finish and some of that kind of stuff. But for the most part, the touring models went unchanged. So, other than the new Street Glide Ultra. So
the question is the red CVO ST going to sell more? I don't know, sell more than what, but I like the red CVO ST personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the red's got a hot color. I don't know. I've always I try to kind of guess these a little bit every year. Obviously, as we order bikes in for the store, we hope we pick what we think is going to be popular. But again, I think just overall, I think they've done a great job with colors. So it'll be hard to imagine that it won't sell well. So.
And I don't know that any of us have a definitive answer to this question, but how seriously does HD Corporate take the feedback from customers when we get these customer surveys, and what are the consequences? And I think that's really hard to know. I mean, that's not the kind of thing they're going to tell most people. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's people that think that Harley has their favorite content creators that they leak stuff to. If that's the case, I'm not on that list. They have never leaked anything to me. In fact, I have shared stuff with them before I published it on YouTube and said, hey, I'm seeing this, I'm hearing this. That's one way our relationship developed. Is, I mean, that wasn't the first time I talked to them or, messaged with them or anything. That first time was over a charity thing we were doing. But when I found out about the brake lines, I said, hey, do you have any comment? And that meant a lot that they got the opportunity to comment even if they couldn't. So I do think they take feedback pretty seriously. I don't know how seriously or how in-depth those customer surveys and that get weighed into any decisions they make, though.
Yeah. I can't speak on behalf of HD Corporate because I don't work for them, but I can tell you that they do tell us, so this is third-party info, that they read every one of those. That they have an entire team that reads them and looks through them and actually reads the commentary in them. Now, consequence-wise, I've never been on the bad end of anything on that, so I don't know how bad it can get. I sure as hell don't want to find out.
Right on.
So there's a compliment for the Heritage Classic. I had someone who commented that they didn't understand why the Heritage Classic didn't get the bigger motor when it's a 2-up bike, and I said, my take on that is go ride a 117, period. You ride one of these 117s. I'm riding a bike that's, I would argue, is probably 150 pounds or more than the Heritage Classic with the 117. So I'm carrying more weight, and we go 2-up on it, and there's no concern about it not performing or having enough power because we're two up. When she gets on the back, I can't tell any difference. I don't think that's a concern for that. I think, like I explained, I think the design, like Harley said, was to make different power for different intended customer bases, what people are looking for. People looking for the Heritage are not typically looking for the fastest bike they can get.
Yeah.
Harley Davidson should have upgraded the Breakout to a 121 high output. Well, I don't know that. I don't think they're going to put anything onto a 121 high output till the CVOs get something bigger. I think the way it's going to be. They can't rob from the CVO customer base without losing them by giving that motor to somebody else, in my opinion. Will Harley Davidson let you test ride the new CVO ST? Well, I don't know about I don't think Harley. I mean, they have one on the demo truck, don't they, Nick?
They do. They always put, at least they did last year. I haven't seen the list for this year, but last year on the demo kit, when we would get the demo fleet, it always had one on it. So
I would say under the right circumstances.
Yeah, I would say, that's a good answer, under the right circumstances, and then after that, it's going to be dealer specific on that answer. I can tell you, from our perspective, if we've got somebody on the hook that really, really wants one, and I've got a list of them sitting here, absolutely, we'll go ride one. If I have one remaining and it's like the only one, and we're just not that far along in the purchase process yet, it's really, really difficult to go out and ride those when they are the specialty bike. No different than walking into a Chevrolet dealership and saying, hey, toss me the keys to that Z06 Vet. I want to go take it out, and if I like it, I'll buy it. That's
right.
You'll get the same answer out of a Chevy store. They'll tell you, hey, you can imagine that is a badass machine, and out of the future owner, we're not driving it yet. So, but the cool thing is there's getting to be more of those in the network. I mean, we've got one here that is a former demo CVO ST, and by God, we've let anybody who wants to ride it go out and ride it and see what they feel like on it and enjoy it. And it's sold many other CVOs, and at some point when it sells, it'll, I'm sure, sell for an appropriate price to match that it's got some miles on it. So
here's a comment that came in. We're about 15 minutes behind. I would love to buy a 24 Road Glide, but I just dropped $4,000 on my 11 Ultra. Is the 24 Road Glide that much better that I should go for it even after dropping the cash? I can swing it. So my answer is, if you're not sure, then you haven't rode a 24 Road Glide. And if you rode a 24 Road Glide, you won't be asking this question because you will already be swinging the hammer. What's your opinion there, Nick?
I would give about the same answer, but I'd add a little extra color to it. If you've never ridden a Milwaukee 8, you would not be or if you've ridden a Milwaukee 8 and versus a 2011 twin cam, I don't think you'd be asking that question. So definitely, get into a dealer and take one for a demo ride, and that'll answer it right away. The dealers there's no obligation to come in and do a demo ride with most dealers. Again, that's dealer specific, but if you're anywhere near Springfield, Missouri, stop by, and if you got a motorcycle endorsement, we'll go out and ride them and put some miles on them, and hell, you can ride everything we got here, and you'll find out real quickly just based off your own experience as to whether or not you think it's worth it. So,
and what he looked like he dropped on it was clutch, compensator, new tires, some other stuff.
Right.
So a lot of maintenance type stuff.
Yeah.
And new tires are going to matter to somebody buying a bike a little bit. I mean, it may not get you more money, but it makes it easier to not come down on the price. You can say, look, you ain't going to have to buy tires. You ain't got to do this. You ain't got to do that.
Yeah.
So any Icon bikes, and I'm sure the answer is we can't comment on future products. That's the Harley Davidson line. I think there will be an Icon bike. I just I don't know if my early guess for a Road King Icon bike will be accurate or not.
Yeah, I sure hope there are Icon bikes coming. Again, I can't comment on it, but I can tell you I hope we get them because they are a lot of fun to have around. It creates such a buzz within the riding community. Great conversations with the riders that come in and just get to see them and think they're cool. And, it's just, you can't ask for anything better to talk about than something like an Icon series.
Hey, Nick, I know that you don't know anything about what might, what could be an Icon bike at this point in time. But do you have any ideas of what you would like to see in an Icon bike?
Ooh, I really enjoy the touring frames that they did with them. So the Electric Glide Revival was super cool to me, the blue and white one. And then I really liked the Highway King, especially in the magenta. Man, if I could have snagged one of those, I absolutely would have. That was a cool bike. So
Yeah, that was.
You know, if you get a Poisonberry Street Glide, you might be able to get yourself one of those if you can get a used one to come in off the Highway King or something.
yep.
You know, make mama happy and a lot more is forgiven.
Tell you what, if just got to sell a few more bikes and then maybe. There's a reason I haven't bought one of them yet. That buying two is really a whole lot bigger reason.
Yeah. So Brian wants to know, since they have the Street Glide Ultra, do you have plans to do a Road Glide with the limited package to put on the floor?
Yes, we've already ordered a limited package from Harley Davidson to get it here in stock, color matched to one of our bikes that we have in stock. So long as the stars align and we don't sell that bike before the kit gets here, the plan is to build one for the floor.
And XAN said, hey, there's April. So since P&A typically gets you 25 cents on the dollar, well, how adding a limited package impact value at trade-in? And I think I talked to a friend of mine who works at a bank about this at dinner the other night, and he said that, you know, a lot of people will say you get nothing for your parts and accessories on trade-in. And he works at a bank, and he said you're not going to get full value. You may not get full price for consideration and loan, but they are starting to take into consideration, does it have a tour pack? Does it have this? Does it have that? It's no longer as simple as, oh, it's a Street Glide and everything you put on it doesn't matter. The MSRP was this and the book value is that. That these add-ons are starting to get weighed into that value sum at banks. So how does it work for you guys there at the dealership?
About the same. So you know, it's like anything else. Supply and demand really answers the question. So you know, P&A accessories. I've had people that have done, you know, back when the Stage 5 tire shredder kit was an available option for the twin cam. You know, if they did one of those and the miles were low and the bike was super clean, we absolutely increased its trade value because I can sell it for more because of how cool it sounds when you fire it up. But if somebody goes and hangs stuff on the bike that make it a very, very narrow market, and they do accessories that are really cool to somebody, but not so cool to 9 other people, then it's a lot harder. And so the key is just, you know, what exactly is done and things of that nature, and will it improve value? But we are seeing that, you know, like color match tour packs, even on the 23.5 CVOs, or like Fast Johnny enthusiast edition bikes, you know, when it's something like that does help the value on it. So
yeah, you're saying putting firecracker in big letters across the front of your frame is not going to appeal to 9 out of 10 customers? We knew that going in.
We had a bike that got traded in once that we all nicknamed the Dragon Bike and it was a really cool job. Somebody had it done really well, but a pinstriper had painted a dragon on the front of the fairing, and it looked super cool. And it did sell with it on there, but it sold at a much lower value than what the bike was worth. And the best thing could have happened ever. The guy bought it, he rode it, he enjoyed it, and he had that all removed and taken off and repainted and traded it back in again. And oddly enough, the bike was worth more without the dragon, but we still knew it was the dragon bike.
Well, we knew when we painted mine I wasn't going to get rid of it. So I got to get my collection back up since I sold my Dyna to him.
Nice.
So Javin says, I'm going for the new Road Glide 3 with Whiskey Fire Storm Flames with no cost. Oh, if it was no cost, that's what he would be going for, I think.
Nice.
Cost aside, I would take the CVO Street Glide in the Raven Fade. Two Wheel Boomer got yesterday ride a new bike. Jay Sorsby said, yeah. Let's see here. Trying to catch up. There's some talk about Spring Fling. some talk about Cycle Showcase. For all that don't know, Cycle Showcase is coming up quick, weekend after next. So
Yeah,
we're gonna go see Nick this weekend because we gotta go to St. Louis the next weekend.
I'm hopeful to make it to St. Louis on Sunday. We'll see if I can get out there and back for the Sunday part of the show at least.
We'll be home by then, but we will be there Saturday.
Nice.
You want me to try and leave a writing in the Ozark sticker in the building somewhere for you to find?
Absolutely. Let's go for it. We'll make a scavenger hunt out of it.
Scavenger hunt out of it.
Probably take it down so I can't ever find it, but that's okay.
If I stick it on the bottom of somebody's gas tank, I'll probably not be allowed back in the show, but that would make it hard to find.
Hey, the real question is, does Nick want a ride in the DUI Cruiser?
Oh, that's a lot of fun.
I'm really curious.
So, Steve, I'm going to let you tell him about it.
It's a 2010 Toyota Camry with not much suspension. And when you put 5-6 people in it, the St. Louis streets aren't very friendly.
Nice.
And then
And
then you get this little, at the time, Steve had this, he called it the DUI Cruiser. I don't think he's, hiding the fact. He had a breathalyzer in it. So you get this alert, he's got to blow now, or the thing's going to die in St. Louis traffic.
Nice. Nice.
So it was quite an experience.
Oh, we had a lot of fun that year. We had a lot of fun last year. Mike's cut me out of the fun this year.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Nick, if you haven't been to that show, you're in for a treat. It's Randall, the guy that puts it on, does a hell of a job.
That's what I've heard. Everybody I talk to that's been to it says it's fantastic. And unfortunately, I've always had to, I always have to work Saturdays. That's part of the gig. But so I've never had an opportunity to make it over. And then often I had another conflict with the last ownership group we were with. There was an event that always lined up with that particular weekend. So I just never got to go. But this year, I don't have that other commitment. So I'm going to try and see if I can pull it off.
Well, it's worth the trip.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, on Friday night, they usually have a little social event.
Party?
Do we know where that's going to be this year?
So, Salty Badger, who was in the chat earlier, I don't know if he's still there, did a live with Randall. You need to go to his channel and watch it for all the details.
Okay. Good.
Shameless plug for Salty. I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to make you go watch his video.
I love Salty.
Salty was the builder last year. He's had some health issues this year, and he's not going to make it. But he had Randall on, and I watched that live stream recently. So they shell out some details and stuff there. So
Cool.
Go check it out. But I tell you, everybody, this show is not like a bike show like you're used to, where they're going to judge a bike or have classes. This is really an art show featuring motorcycles as art.
Yeah.
It's an exhibit more than a bike show, really.
Yeah, everything's covered up, and about every 10 minutes, they pull the cover off the next bike. And so it just keeps it fresh and exciting.
That's cool.
And the guy that puts it on, Randall, I knew he was kind of into this, but I didn't know, but he's been doing sound and lighting since he was like 18 years old. And he's been the in-house guy for the pageant there in St. Louis for the last 20 years. So he knows sound and lighting, and he actually brings friends in that are in the lighting business and stuff to help him get this all set up. And they go to a lot of work to light the bikes a certain way, to position things a certain way. He really, this isn't just, park it over there and park that one over there. These are up on platforms. They're unveiled. The lighting is key. It's really a top-notch production, which is why he's now doing Cycle Showcase at the lake and Cycle Showcase at Sturgis. And there's another Cycle Showcase on the way.
Nice.
In Texas. He kind of revealed that on Salty's show. So Galveston, he's going to have an exhibit there.
Oh, okay.
For the
He's got the one out on the East Coast too.
Smokeout.
Right? Smokeout.
Yeah, he does something at Smokeout too. The NorCal says the Lowrider S at 20K looks like a good deal. Plenty of aftermarket to trick out for 3 or 4K. I don't know. I heard a podcast recently, Fast Life. They were talking about what bikes fit where and the pricing, and I guess would you say the Lowrider S is still selling as well, or would you say some of the Lowrider ST some of the clientele has moved up to the Lowrider ST, and it's kind of diminished some of the Lowrider S sales.
The ST did cut into it a bit for us, but it wasn't dramatic. I think it's a great bike that introduces people to our brand. There are a lot of people that come from other brands or other sports and say that that's the one that really kind of speaks to them, and so it tends to draw a lot of people in. So the good thing is that buyer isn't always diminished when there's some other replacement bike, but it's taken a little bit of a hit probably after the ST launched. So
Yep.
Hey, Nick, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
There's about 3 or 4 different YouTube content creators, most of which have a background in either racing of some form or stunt riding, and they are buying up these Nightster specials. And have you had anybody come in and ask about them? Are you starting to see a little more, people being more inquisitive about that bike?
Yeah. The interest in the Nightster platform is improving. It's gaining traction more and more every year, and I think some of that's the dealer network helping get some excitement around it, but also I think there's starting to be some more aftermarket around it and just some more excitement with it. It's a fun bike to ride. I mean, they're not the traditional Sportster by any means, for better and worse. So, but a lot of technology in that bike.
Yeah, a couple of content creators have really kind of picked up on it. East Coastin and Cruzy Originals, and Cruzy Originals is making parts. I mean, they're literally making parts, aftermarket parts for that bike and stuff. And I think that helps too. I mean, I want to give credit where credit's due. Not that I think, content creators or YouTubers drive everything, but I do think that there is some buzz being created by them and some interest in people who maybe would not have looked at it twice otherwise are now starting to say, oh, well, I mean, Cruzy says it's a modern Dyna.
Yeah. Well, and we even had, if you're familiar with One Wheel Revolution, the stunt crew with Rob Carpenter, and he and Joseph Beavers, they both showed up with a Nightster for one of our stunt shows we did here at the dealership in, I think, 2022. And it was one hell of a show to see them out there on a Nightster ripping around. And it was a stock bike. I mean, they hadn't done anything to it. They had set it up so they had a place to put their foot, stand it on its ass end, and ride it across the lot. But it would do the coolest burnouts, and it was super quiet. Our neighbors loved it. They didn't have to hear a thing when that bike was out there. But, that and the Pan America both are awesome to watch them go stunt them. So,
Firecracker Candy said hi to both of us.
I seen that.
You're probably caught up on the chat. I'm trying to stay in line so I can get people's questions answered. That is kind of the point tonight we advertise. So, if there's a lot of people just having a conversation in the chat, and that's all great too. Entertain yourselves. Here's Dustin's comment. As a new rider just getting into HD, this year's release feels more like you're picking between the frame, wheel size, base, weight. Previous years felt like they were far more small differences that could push a rider into one model or another besides the look of the bike.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that. There are potentially, a few less choices with the elimination of the Softail standard. Now it really is. I mean, you pick a size and then that's the model that's available in that size. But, you still really have kind of the key and core families, touring family, the Softail family, adventure touring, and then the sport family. And, at the end of the day, I mean, a heritage Softail, although it's the biggest Softail that they offer compared to a Street Bob, which is now the smallest Softail, they do ride surprisingly similar, and both can be essentially taken apart and built up to look like the other with enough P&A on it. So it is very much similar, the underpinnings that are there. So, truly at the end of the day, you gotta ride a couple of them, sit on them, and figure out which one really speaks to you. But definitely you don't want to buy the wrong one, because you're going to want to kick the damn thing over every day you walk in your garage. So get the right one. It sucks if they get the wrong one.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of comment about like starting on the wrong bike and you outgrow it too fast. If you start on
Yeah.
maybe a Sportster when you should start on something bigger, and there's a lot of debate to that, and I don't think there's a one size fits all answer there either.
Yeah, there's no right answer to it. It really comes down to that individual rider and the level of risk they're willing to take and where their comfort is and things of that nature. So
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but it seems like, I'll just go back 10 years ago when there was 5 or 6 different options just in Sportsters. And it seems like to me the number of options you can buy today is a lot less than it was 10 years ago.
yeah,
Do you see that as a plus in terms of selling?
I think the simplification. I mean, let's face it, America as a whole is really simplifying. Um, there's fewer options even on computers. You used to go to the Best Buy, and dear God, to pick out a new laptop or a desktop was a massive undertaking. Now you really can't go wrong depending on which one you choose. And I think that's somewhat the same with just modern retailing. But the advantage then is you don't find yourself as a dealership going, okay, we sell. Like for us, we sell a handful of Pan Americas every year, and if they'd start slicing and dicing them into various models, inevitably, just like it is with my wife at home, if I have a 50-50 chance, it's wrong every time. But if it's a one size answer, dear God, a pretty good shot I might get it right. So
Right on.
So here's a comment, and I think maybe we can add a different perspective to this. So he says, and not that I'm saying he's wrong, but just a different perspective on it. The Lowrider S is more attractive than the ST. The ST fairing looks like a Temu Edition FXRT. The tiny clamshell bags aren't worth it, and there's no passenger seat on the ST. Now, Firecracker was not a fan of the ST when she first demoed it for 10 minutes. She bought the Sport Glide. I mean, she rode both before, or not the ST, the Lowrider S. She rode the Lowrider S and the Sport Glide both.
I rode all 3.
Yeah.
And I just kept going back to the Sport Glide.
Now, what did 3 days on a Lowrider ST do for you at Daytona? 3 days, not 3 hours, not 3 minutes, 3 days.
Well, and the thing that kept attracting me to the Lowrider or the Sport Glide is the forward controls, which I know on most of them you can change it, but I just didn't like the Lowrider ST or the ST, but after riding it in Daytona, I liked it. I really started liking the Lowrider ST, and then when I found out that you could get that nice speaker package, then that really I was like, oh man.
Now,
but I don't think they had the speaker option when I bought my bike, anyways.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't think the ST was out when you bought yours, or it just come out. You rode it after you'd actually bought yours. The Lowrider S is kind of what you were back and forth on, but kind of my point of this. Some of this is you can ride something for 5 minutes, and that may give you an impression. If you're an experienced rider, you may know right away this isn't for you. But if you try something new for 5 minutes, it's going to feel new and uncomfortable and awkward. And you might find after a certain period of time that oh, I adjusted to this, and I actually, it's okay. It's not bad, And that was her thing. She liked the forward controls. She didn't like the feel of the mids until she was forced to use them for 3 days, and she was like, "Oh, this isn't bad," And there were some other things she liked. Now, the clamshell bags for her were not a problem because she came off of a Dyna with leather saddlebags that had very small openings to be able to stuff anything in them, So they were an improvement. They might not be an improvement if you came from a touring bike, but coming from what she came from, it was an improvement. How many times have you rode a passenger to this day?
Just when we're at a rally and I want to
No,
go
I mean,
drink.
how many have you rode? Not when you
how
rode
many passengers? I've never rode a passenger. I have no desire to ride with a person behind me because I'm fine by myself and I need that space for my stuff. So, no.
But
now,
she's got 30,000 miles on motorcycles in the last couple of years, and she's never had a passenger on there once. The passenger seat means nothing to her other than it's a place to put a bag. I mean, that's strap it on, and she's got a trunk.
Oh, well, I rode on the passenger
Right.
seat on my bike that time, and nobody would want to ride passenger on that seat.
Bullshit. I'm going to get on there at Spring Flame.
Oh, I can promise you, you will not want to go.
And we're going to go up that big hill.
Oh, are we? No.
From the cat house.
Nope.
But Steve, who bought a Tobacco Fade Lowrider ST from Nick at Renegade, I won't say he won't ever ride a passenger, but 95% of his time he's riding solo. Yeah. And so he's even looking at getting, I think we're going to give him the Chop Tour Pack off my Street Glide. That's solid black, just for when he's doing cross country or bigger hauls and he needs a tour pack. But I think he's going to get that mount where you move it forward and the tour pack mounts up behind the rider, so it's like a backrest for the rider. That's how often he's going to ride a passenger. So, I mean, I get some of those things are a detraction for some people, but there is a market for some people that those things mean absolutely nothing about. They don't have an impact. And I think that's just what we all have to remember when we don't like something about a bike is it just means it doesn't fit us. It doesn't mean it doesn't fit someone.
Well, and most of your, like when you go to a rally and they have the truck there, a demo truck, you don't get to go ride that long. So personally for me, sometimes I feel like if you got to ride it just a little bit longer, you could figure out really if that's what you want. My biggest thing is I like my comfort. But I'm a person big on music, so it makes a difference to me if there's a way that I can have music, because I feel it relaxes me more. But I've gotten a lot better since I've got my full face helmet, modular helmet. I do use my Cardo unit to listen to music more than the speakers, so it's actually turned into it's not as big of a deal to me to have it on my bike. But
shameless plug, where'd you get that helmet at?
Renegade Harley Davidson. Or I'm sorry, it should be
Teddy Morris Renegade Harley Davidson.
Teddy Morris Renegade Harley Davidson. Sorry.
Yeah, she's had that helmet for a year, Nick. And
I know. The first thing she did together.
Yeah, she has wore that helmet more than she has wore any helmet, like consistently. Like there would be times she'd be like, I'm gonna wear my 3/4. Now she just puts the full face on. I mean, I don't think she hardly wore a different helmet all year. She likes that helmet that much better.
Yeah.
So Cornbread, one of the subscribers on the channel, and he's a team channel member and stuff. He's a Road King guy, and I don't know that you can speak to this, or maybe you can have an opinion on it, maybe you can't. But he wants to know why the Road King Special is being totally ignored by HD. And I think a lot of people are asking why the trikes didn't get upgraded, why the Road Kings didn't get upgraded. I can comment that when I had the conversation with Harley last year, they said that there's what they look at as an adoption rate, and some buyers of some type of motorcycles are going to adopt to the new infotainment center and the new styling faster than others, and that's why they rolled that out to those models first. Yeah. And I don't know if that's having any impact as to why the Road King's not getting it yet.
Yeah, I wish I knew that as well, because it's I would love to see updates on the Road King Special. I think it's a fantastic motorcycle, and I've got a handful of customers that really are ingrained in that particular lineup, and they aren't interested in something with a fairing, but they're all kind of in the waiting game of saying, man, when is my time to trade in? Because right now it's, there's not the update yet. And then on the flip side, there's others that say, hey, I don't want the new angular fuel tank and all that stuff. So, I'm sure Harley has a strategy with that in mind, and they've taken it into consideration, but it'll be interesting to see what happens next.
So Daniel's got a Nightster. Aftermarket's been slow to develop with these guys working with the bike. I'm excited to see what parts they come up with. There's been a lot of talk about Road King STs and CVO Road Glides in the chat there on the side, if you haven't been keeping up with that. Yeah, so that's another thing, that spoke wheels with tubeless tires. So that's a big thing I mentioned in my video on the street, Bob, and a lot of people might not have. I didn't catch it that night till I read the press release. But yeah, the spoke wheels are tubeless.
Yes, they are the same design as what, or similar anyway, different spoke count, but very similar design to what the Pan America uses, as well as what the CVO road glides have been using since I think 2021 now. So a really cool design where it's that tubeless spoked wheel.
So Brian asked, you already talked about Icon Collection. Any predictions for mid-year release, CVO trike with new tins and infotainment center? And I know, obviously, Nick, you can't comment on new products, so we'll let everybody else chime in on this. And I don't know if Firecracker will have an opinion. I mean, there's a lot of people. Everybody wants to see their bike as a CVO. That's the fact. I mean, if you're a trike guy, you want to know where the CVO trike is. If you're a Softail guy, you want to know where the CVO Softail is. If you're a Road King guy, you want a CVO Road King, unless you're JS, and then you want a Road King ST because he doesn't want to pay for a CVO. But I think there will be some kind of mid-year release. I think we're definitely going to have an Icon model and Enthusiast. They've done those every year. Initially, when they talked about like the Enthusiast or the Icon, I think one of them, they said there would be 1 to 2 a year, and they've only done 1 a year. And so I think they'll continue to do 1 a year. I don't think we'll see 2 a year unless the economy kind of turns and sales pick up, and then maybe they'll consider doing 2 of these a year. But I think there will be some kind of new model at mid-year release. I just don't know if it'll be a trike or if it'll be a big change. The 23.5 CVOs were kind of a big deal, but I really felt like that's because they just weren't quite ready at launch time, so that's why they didn't come out till mid-year. And they didn't come out with a CVO Street Glide or Road Glide at launch time. They waited till mid-year to release those. They were missing from the lineup, basically. I don't really feel like we have something missing that they're going to bring out at mid-year as a CVO. I feel more like we're going to get something different if we get something, at mid-year. I kind of thought after seeing the Street Glide Ultra that maybe the Road Glide Limited package is a Band-Aid, a stopgap until the new tour pack is ready and everything else. So maybe we'll see a mid-year release, full Ultra, full Road Glide Limited, whatever, with the new tour pack and speaker pods and all the things that everybody's bitching about that the Ultra is missing. I think that's what I would do for a mid-year if I could pull it off, would be that touring model with those new updates on it. Steve, what would you bring out mid-year if you were Harley Davidson?
And I'm trying to pull it up. Shit. Back in '77, Harley made this black bike that was kind of had like a dragster look to it. Had a real funky, unique tank. It wasn't all just nice and rounded. It had edges to it. And when I was just old, and at that point in my life, I was 10 years old. And our little dealership in my hometown had one. And a buddy of mine's, his brother actually has one. He bought it. But you could make that model out of an ST, I think, and or a lowrider S, because it's got the little sport fairing on it. I'm looking at a picture of it. I can't pull up what type it was, but anyway, I always thought that bike was badass, and I think that would make a great Icon bike.
Okay.
I'll try to get you the symbols.
So, Firecracker, do you want to comment on this, or could you care less about a mid-year release?
If they did a mid-year release on something I was interested in, but other than that, I mean, I'm kind of set in my ways for now, so I really don't have a comment on what I'd like to see.
Okay, I got
purple. Okay.
It's a Google 1977 Harley Davidson XL CR Cafe Racer.
Those are cool.
Tell me if you don't think that thing's badass.
Yeah, there's one of those at the museum in Milwaukee, and it is an absolutely gorgeous machine.
And you could
What am I
use the
Googling?
lowrider S, I think, to stem off of that.
Yeah. I think, potentially you could build that out of a Nightster Special even.
Yeah.
I mean, that would, if they want to put some excitement into the Nightster Special lineup, although, all the purists right now are literally like finding out where I live and figuring out how they can send me anthrax or something. But, because the Nightster doesn't sound like the traditional Harley, but I think that would actually, either one of those platforms, you could build that from.
You could.
So, Firecracker, what they're telling you to Google is 1977 XL CH Cafe Racer. So, I don't know if you know this name, Nick, but Valerie is looking to do some test rides at Renegade.
She is, and I'm sure. So Valerie is one of those people that loves to leave me the notes, reminding me even little limericks that I did not buy my wife the purple CVO. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there before Valerie gets to it. I want to get one up on her. But yeah, she is pretty excited about the new touring lineup. So we're trying to figure out road glide or street glide right now.
Okay. I don't know if I've seen anybody do this. Could the Sportster S gauge be put on the Lowrider ST? And I mean, I don't think it could without some serious work because they're kind of whole different ECUs and gauges and all that. I mean, Nick, would you have any insight if that's something? Have you ever seen anybody do anything like that?
I haven't seen it yet, but I want to figure it out because I really was hopeful for that this year. I think it would be a fantastic upgrade on that Softail lineup to be able to have the integrated navigation from your phone and the ability to control your phone through a headset and whatnot. I think there's an opportunity there for us. So if Harley's listening, I can sell that if you build it. So
I put it in my predictions I said I don't know if that's what they will do. I think there'll be a new gauge. I said, but if it was my choice, it would be the gauge off of. I actually said the Nightster Special, but I think that's pretty much the same gauge as the Sportster S, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, what I do have to wonder, if you look very closely at the new Softail gauges, they are not the same gauge package that we had before. They match the Nightster standard gauge that's analog. It's the same font, the same design. I don't know what's behind it. I haven't taken the time to take one apart and look, but they look like it could be getting closer to that. So it'd be super exciting if we'd go that direction.
Well, you know what they remind me of, looking at some of the photos? The gauge on the Sport Glide, like the Fat Boy, the RPM and everything that's set up in that is identical to the way the Sport Glide is set up.
Yeah, it's similar, but believe it or not, if you look really close, especially in the liquid crystal part at the bottom, it actually mirrors the Nightster setup. So that's what makes me wonder if the TFT is coming at some point. So
cool. So Chase says, I will 100% ride on your postage stamp back, April. I think he wants to be your bitch. Let's see here. I always thought the Lowrider ST was the baby road glide. So like our friend Steve, he does ride cross country. He's going to ride to Sturgis with us this year. He is older and retired Army, retired law enforcement, and for him, the Lowrider ST is an improvement or a preference over the road glide because of the weight. He had to have heart surgery a few years ago, so he's not as strong as he used to be and things. And so I have a friend who I communicate with out of Australia. I've never met him, but I consider him a friend. We email frequently and stuff, and he's into bikes, and he's a lowrider guy because of his age and the weight and stuff like that. So, I think there's a set of people who are looking to travel, to tour still, but who want something smaller and lighter than the road glide. And I think the ST is a good option for those folks.
Great option.
Firecracker, if I drink enough, I wouldn't know if you had a passenger seat for me or not, Cornbread says. We got to meet Cornbread in person. I'm going to just tell a quick story because, being a content creator, is kind of sometimes a different perspective, but we get to know these people online. We see these comments and stuff. But last year, Cornbread came to Arkansas and met up with us at Switchback Bar, and we got to sit and visit with him and his lady and, have a drink and really kind of get to that personal connection thing. And that's probably the most amazing thing about being a content creator. I hate to use the word influencer or YouTuber, but is like getting to know these people and then getting to meet them, and you've already developed this friendship and this relationship and stuff. And we've met so many great people. I mean, Tiffany Renee came into the chat here tonight. I got to meet her last year at the press event. She's got a great channel. um, it's stuff like that. You meet somebody for one day, but we talk throughout the year and comments and live streams and build relationships and stuff. And that's probably been the most rewarding thing from being a content creator outside of riding the CVO Road Glide ST on a track with the Wyman brothers. That's going to be really, really hard to beat. Brian says, Firecracker, make a trip to Sturgis, go to Hill City. They let you take the bike for an hour. Well, Nick will let her take a bike for an hour too, I bet you. So she could probably talk him into it.
I'm pretty sure I let one of them go all the way to Arkansas for a weekend. I don't remember that happened. I mean, I could have slept. It happened with
600 miles, baby.
Yeah.
Hey,
600 miles in less than 3 days.
Yep.
I might have been riding behind him too for a second or two until I couldn't see him anymore.
But Firecracker has been to Hill City. She rode.
Oh, by the way, did you tell Steve what I told you tonight?
About what?
Mike? What we were talking about at the table.
No.
Do I get to tell him? So, Steve, you're famous. So, Adam Sandoval sent me an email about his stuff. And I was looking on his place in Eureka Springs, the Route 60. Is it 66 or 62?
Route 62.
Okay, so some of his pictures on his page for that, there's a picture of your road glide sitting in front of one of the cabins. You got to go check it out. You're famous. Or your bike is, at least.
Yeah. That's cool.
So, I'm going to share another little quick story here. I had a comment on the Street Glide Ultra review video I did, kind of, first look. And the guy was kind of upset about stuff. And I wasn't trying to defend Harley, but I was trying to get him to maybe look at it from a different perspective about, what it had. Yes, it's missing some things the Ultra Limited had, but it's priced cheaper, blah, 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 those things. And he ended up emailing me, and we had a conversation back and forth, and he asked my opinion on some stuff. And I said, have you rode one yet? Have you gone and rode a 24 yet? And he had not. And I said, go ride one and then tell me, how you feel about this and what it's worth. And I just got an email at 8:09 tonight. So I want Harley Davidson to know I sold another bike for them somewhere in the world because he went and rode a new Street Glide, and the bike is so much more refined than my 2 Road Glides. I'm really impressed. So I made the trade for my 21 Limited for a 25 Street Glide Ultra, Whiskey Fire, black on black. I'm stoked. Thank you for your videos, blah, blah, blah. He has a question about exhaust, which I'll get to him later and stuff. But, I mean, I sold the bike, but all I really did was talk him into riding the bike, and then the bike sold itself.
Yeah.
And so anybody out there that hasn't rode one of these new bikes and you want to talk about why did the price go up or what's it worth or what's not worth this or that, all I can say is to really have a good informed opinion on the matter, you need to really ride one. If you ride one and it's not for you, then cool, great. But if you haven't rode one yet, I can't tell you how much of a difference it is that you're going to feel until you just do it. It's not something that, I can tell you all day long, but you're not going to feel it until you feel it and you ride it. And then you're really going to get it. So it's cool when you get videos like that or you get questions like that. And I didn't try and sell a bike. That wasn't the intent. My intent was for him to try it and have a little open more mind about it and experience it for himself rather than just look at it on a piece of paper and say, well, it doesn't have this and it doesn't have that. And it's not worth this or it's not worth that. Kind of like Steve said, I've never put my ass in the seat and worried how much the payment was this month once I took off.
Yeah.
Bill says spoke wheels are a pain in the ass to clean. No thanks.
None of that. That's why I don't wash the Pan America.
I'm trying to catch up on stuff. We're pushing over an hour and a half here. Christy probably wants Nick to get home and do the dishes or something.
Earn his keep.
She's hoping he's going to bring home a purple Street Glide.
Right.
That is part of the list. So
Jay said, Steve, check your Insta. He sent you something.
Yeah.
Cornbread, any thoughts on bringing back a more traditional looking Sportster bike mid-year? Bring some heat on the Indian Scout. I guess, Nick is a dealer. I mean, what would you like to see the motor company do to compete more directly with the Scout lineup, or do you think they need to?
I think, since we got rid of the Sportster 48, that was one of my favorite bikes to sell here at the dealership. The Iron 1200 was fun. The Iron 883 was great. But the Sportster 48 drew in a whole different customer. And ever since we lost that particular product, the Sportster S doesn't really fill that mold, even though it's a fat tire Sportster. But a quick retune on a Sportster S with some laced wheels and a very kind of old school looking tank, and get that, give that Indian Scout a run for its money would be a fantastic product.
Yep. So Daniel commented he was glad to see the soft tail gauge match is nicer standard. And I do think some standardization, like the controls and some of that stuff, gauges, features, and functions, is a good direction to see Harley Davidson moving in. There's going to be some change from a soft tail to a Street Glide, but you're making that gap smaller every incremental change.
Yeah.
The photo that Jay sent me was a Sportster S that had a cafe style fairing on the front, and it gave it that 1977 cafe racer look to the bike. It was pretty badass.
That would be cool.
Tiffany Renee said, yeah, that was awesome. The riding the CVO STs. Yeah, that's going to be right up there. There's a lot of side chat here. I think I finally caught up on the chat. So we're caught up, everybody. It's been an hour and a half. I think we've answered some questions, shared some thoughts on there and stuff. Nick, I really appreciate your time and the fact that you've let us starve you to death so that you had to eat M&Ms.
Ones though, man. I mean, we're not sponsored by them. I'm probably getting in trouble. Who knows? They'll blur this out someday, but bring me those. Food is my love language. So, just side tip for customers.
So if you want a really good deal on a bike, bring him a fresh pan of brownies.
Yep.
Still warm and gooey with a cold glass of milk.
Yeah. Yep. Firehouse cookies. I mean, we can go on and on with all the food stashed in my office.
All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap this up. We had a lot of people in the live. We've averaged 50 to 70 people at one time throughout the night since we started here. Really appreciate you everybody coming out and hanging out with us and asking questions and giving us the chance to share some information about the 2025 models and stuff. And Nick, I really appreciate your time. I know you've stayed late at the office there and stuff to do this, and I'll see you Saturday. We're recording another video at Renegade Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
We might be back in the dyno room.
Ooh.
Sneak peek.
I better go sweep it then.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might want to tell them to run a test print. Let's check the toner. For the video, I literally had to add some color in the lines where it was faded to make it a little more visible.
We'll see what we can come up with then. So
yeah. See if they got a fresh toner for that thing.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate the invite on here. This has been a lot of fun. So
yeah. We'd love to have you back sometime. A lot of this is, we try and provide value to our audience and stuff, but a lot of it's just having a good time and visiting and shooting the shit and talking about what we could or couldn't do or would do if we could do anything we wanted.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Remember, everybody, Next week is Cycle Showcase. We will be in St. Louis for that, the 8th and the 9th. I think Nick's going to be there on Sunday. So if you're there on Sunday, you can look for him, say hi. If you're there on Saturday, look for Firecracker and tell her hi. She's the star of the show here. So
Yeah.
make sure you take stickers with you, because everybody needs to ask her for a sticker if you see her.
Yep. And
Hey,
you got somewhere for me. So
Yeah.
But if you're a girl, isn't it called a pasty instead of a sticker?
Depends on
Maybe
where
I should get some of those made.
Viewership's going to go way up.
Yeah.
Take them to a strip club and have the girls wear them.
I got some ones.
All right, guys. Thank you, everybody. Y'all stay safe. Keep on riding, and we'll see you in the next one.